What's up, everybody? Welcome to Free Lady. I am your host, Brittany McQuethy, and we are, even though you're watching this next Monday, we are officially a year old, like I said in our last podcast with my partner, Daniel. So I'm super excited to have Michael on here. I met him in the den. He has a really compelling story that I really think that he can help others, like how he grew from, a loss, family, being a dad, all these things. So welcome, Michael, to the show. How's it going?
Thanks for having me. It's going great.
Good. So, Michael, who are you and what do you do?
So I work in sales now. I transitioned into sales after 5 years of being a police officer.
Wow.
Before that, I was in the military as well. So I've dealt with a lot of, traumatic experiences, not just my own, but seeing others in those traumatic experiences as well, and trying to help coach people through that kind of stuff.
Wow. What made you get out of the police force?
Just a better family life and, financial situation for my family. Unfortunately, a lot of law enforcement jobs just don't pay well enough, but it's a job that I miss. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed helping people, and a lot of it relates back to my childhood, like how I grew up and where I came from. It led me to want to be a police officer.
Wow. It's really interesting how like the scale of like what it depends on what state you're in, like you get paid differently. I think it's like crazy because California, they get paid so much.
Yeah, they do, but
Like
it's
fire
also, there's
that
a high cost of living.
yeah,
So it's
it's true. That's true. So I always start off with like a thing that we're grateful for. Um, I'm really grateful to be starting, recording in Utah because it took me a minute to like be in here in the studio recording. So I'm very thankful, and I've got like a lot of people signed up because anytime you want to be successful in your life, you're always going to hit some bump in the road where you're like, what am I doing? This is not even
oh
working.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And I literally just in that last week, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to ask the den again. And so it's been super cool. Everyone who wants to come on and share their story, I'm like, hell yeah, this is awesome. So, what are you grateful for today?
Well, I just got back from an appointment checking on my wife for my baby girl that's going to be here within the next few weeks. So,
Oh
that
my
one's
God.
strong on my mind.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is super exciting. Is it your first
It-
or?
it's my wife's first. I have boys from a previous marriage,
Okay.
and now I get a little girl.
Oh my
So I'm pretty excited about that.
That's really cool. Daniel has 3 girls, and they are all amazing. I mean, kids are just amazing anyways, it's just super exciting. So
Oh
congratulations.
yeah. Thank
So
you.
being a police officer for 5 years, missing your job, like obviously, being in the military, it sounds like, you obviously really want to encourage and help people. But
Yes.
you know how did your life start, like through with your in the military and being a police officer, and what you experienced with traumatic things that happened into your life, and how did you deal with that when you were in those jobs?
So in those jobs, it's moment by moment. And when it comes to like when you're dealing with people, because everybody's got a different situation.
Yeah.
So me, like going back to my childhood, I grew up in a drug infested, abusive, neglectful household.
Oh man.
And I just saw the worst of everybody. There were no positive influences in my life. And it, it was a rough upbringing. And then so one of the stories that I tell and I put out there to some people is one of my earliest childhood memories is I remember being huddled up in the corner with my mother in my bedroom after she had just been beaten by my father. And she said, as she was crying, she said the words to me. She said, "Please don't ever grow up to be like your father."
Oh.
I was 5 years old, and
Oh my
that's
God.
one of my earliest memories. And those words stuck with me. I mean, still today.
Yeah.
He said, "Please don't ever grow up to be like your father."
Yeah. That's a very intense memory, especially being like one of your first early memories of I mean, I'm sure that has led you to some like PTSD that you've worked on or you're working on or you continue to work on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you never forgot those words, right? And it has
No.
led you to like be a man and be the best father that you could be. But that is really, really hard. It's so like, because that's what when you grow up in an abusive family or drugs are around, that's what And
Yeah.
a lot of times, people grow up thinking, well, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
They stay in that, they get comfortable in that, where they have the opportunity to be the one, to be the different
Yeah.
person in that family.
And
So,
that's really what I did, and that's
yeah,
what led me to the military. Is I my family, there wasn't money for school after high school or anything like that, and really I saw what my future would look like if I were to stay down the same path as pretty much everybody in my family.
right.
And so I joined the Navy on my 3 weeks after I turned 18. I headed to boot camp
Wow.
to get away from it.
Good for you. Good for you. I must have been really scary to like do something totally uncomfortable. You know what I mean?
Oh
But
yeah.
that's what life's about, is like doing uncomfortable things to help you grow, because they're so uncomfortable. But once you do it, you're like,
Hmm.
okay. So how long were you in the Navy, Michael?
For 4 years.
For 4 years. And what did you learn? Like, what was the most significant thing that you learned in the Navy?
So going back to positive male role models, I never really had any. So the
Yeah,
military, not, I mean, that taught me a lot about, growing up and being an adult. And
right,
it's not things like stuff that I try to pass on to my kids now,
right,
that, a father and a mother, that stuff they should pass on, but it's not stuff that I really learned.
right,
So,
right.
being, trying to be an adult and how
Yeah.
to do the right things and all that.
Yeah, definitely. And did you get married while you were in the Navy, or did you get married afterwards?
So I was married just short. I got married after the Navy, and
Okay.
then my ex and I were together for I think 13 years, and
Wow.
it was more, and we were both young, and then we had a child, and it was more of a convenience thing, I think, for both of us. When we
Mhm,
finally sat
mhm.
down and talked about it, we weren't really compatible. It wasn't. We were
Right,
just going through the motions, and
right.
we both just did it out of convenience.
Yeah. Yeah. That happens, I mean, and
It
that's the
does.
other thing too. Like sometimes we're just programmed to be, oh, okay, I just got to get into, a
Yeah.
relationship and a marriage, have kids. I mean, I was engaged when I was 20 years old to someone that was a raging alcoholic, pushed me around. And at the same time, I was like, I know that's not right, but my parents got married really early. So, and then you hear other people talking about, oh, like, our marriage isn't the best, but you just do it anyways. And it's all these things that you hear and you grow up with. And, you know, thank God we see the light and we're like, okay, that's not right. And,
Yeah.
I mean, that must have been hard, but at the same time, hopefully do you guys have a good like co-parenting relationship now with your
Yes.
son?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what we all want. And anyone can do that, I mean, there are some situations where I don't think some people would want to, but in the reality of, for the kids' sake, it's amazing that you
Yeah.
can have a good relationship. Um,
My parents had anything but a good relationship when they split up. My dad, on my brother's second birthday, so February 18th of 95,
mhm.
my parents were supposed to swap my brother and I. And instead, my
Okay.
dad put both of us in the truck, pushed my mother out, and then got into a 40-mile police chase
Oh my gosh.
all the way all the way back to our house, and then got out and ran on foot and got away, and then turned himself in the next day.
Wow. 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 So there's a lot of like childhood trauma in this, that I hear. So
Yes.
like, did you know that you had to fix these issues as you were becoming an adult, or did you realize them later? And like,
A-
what did you do to realize, what, I need to work through this shit because this was kind of crazy and hard.
Yeah. A lot of it, I mean, a lot of the work, I mean, it goes on daily. It's not something that really ever
Yeah.
goes away, at least for
Yeah.
me.
Absolutely.
A lot of the work started, I'd say, probably later 20s. A lot of
Mm,
just memories start coming back to you, and then
right.
um I always dealt with some depression and stuff, even when I was like high school and
For sure.
everything else. But I was always able to maintain that with exercise, eating right, trying to
Hmm.
take care of myself, because that's the number one thing when it comes to mental health, at least from my personal
Oh
experience,
no,
is taking care of
100%.
yourself.
100%. Yeah, that's really great. I mean, because sometimes people could get in their 50s and 60s and it's like, oh, I should be working on that. Why did you
Yeah.
choose to work on that?
It was I didn't like the being in that darkness. I mean, that's what depression is. It's just a dark,
Yeah,
unemotional place, and
right.
I didn't like feeling like that. And I always knew I wanted to be better,
Mm,
like give my kids better than what I was raised in. So I always, strive to be better than, my previous generation. And I pray to God someday that, they strive harder to raise their kids better than I can raise them. It's just
absolutely.
that's my hope, that I leave that legacy behind.
Hell yeah. That's amazing. And what were the things that you did to help yourself, like learn to love yourself?
So I would say loving myself didn't come until a lot more recently. So a little bit of more backstory. And while I was a police officer, in November 3rd of 2019, my little brother got killed in a car accident. And it it sent me, I quit working out, quit taking care of myself. I think I was 170 pounds when that happened. And then I ballooned up to 235. I mean,
Wow.
I just I didn't care. Like, it was hard. And I knew, like, I've been through like depression before. I knew how to work myself
Right.
out of it. But just getting that first, step in, it's just a hard thing to do. And it's the toughest step that I ever took, was to get myself back out of that hole. And, I lived in that hole for 3 years, just
Wow.
just drowning in depression, not really
Yeah.
caring about, anything going on around me, not taking
Yeah.
care of the things that I need to take care of, including myself.
Right. It's so awful to like lose somebody, like were you and your brother close?
Yes. So
Yeah.
it was just us two. And,
Yeah.
it's funny, like, I would talk to people like when I was a cop and be like, and people would give me excuses. They'd be like, "Oh, well, this is how I was raised," and it may be somebody that was going to jail for drugs, and I'm like, "That's no excuse." Like,
Right.
I was raised in the same, if not worse, household, and my
Right.
brother was raised in the same household. And
Right.
in high school, he kind of started going down the wrong path. He got
Mm,
on drugs and started getting in trouble and everything else. But, like, I look back at it now, and it sucks that I lost him, but his last year and a half on this earth was clean. He had rebuilt bridges that had been broken down with friends and family. So he got to live his last year and a half on this earth, loving life,
yeah.
just getting out there and living, not running from cops, not, arguing with family. He actually got to live.
Wow. It's really special, I would say, when you can look at your life like that when you lose somebody. My family lost our dad when he was 43 years old. I was like 23 at the time, and my five younger siblings, obviously they were all younger. My youngest was, he was still in high school. I believe he was a sophomore
Yeah,
in high school. And it's just tragic. It's
it
tragic.
is.
You go through all these emotions and you have to see like your own mom just like completely change, break down, your siblings change. Um, but it's been almost 16 years. And the kids today, like they're pretty resilient. Especially my youngest brother. He is so humble and happy. And, of course, we have, someone in the family who has an alcohol addiction now because of that. But, we hope and pray that someday he gets a year, 2 years, three
Yeah.
years of living a life to the fullest and building bridges back, and because he's amazing. But the more important thing is to, like, when you lose somebody, when you get to that healing place and you just look at life like, thank God he had that last year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just, my dad, you look at pictures, like I was just telling my Daniel this, I found a picture of me in high school was sitting with my dad. And I'm just like, God, he looks like he's in his 60s at like 35 years old. He carried in stress and everything like that. And, all the things he used to complain about. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sure he'd rather be in heaven riding a dirt bike somewhere or a motorcycle like that, looking down on us. As much as it is hard for us, we have to, in the end, look at it that way, because if we can't find peace in ourselves, for that, like, because if we have one foot stuck in the past and one foot in the future, or, oh, I wish he didn't die and I wish he was here for this. And, and at times, like, I'm like, God damn it, like, I wish my dad was here to, like, kick the shit out of, like, some situation sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like you were to be like, I wish my brother was here to see this baby girl come into my life, but I think you should be really proud and of the healing that you have done to overcome such tragedy. And, like, you're in shape again. You are doing whatever you can be doing to be the best dad, and, have this baby girl come along and, and just teach these kids that, because our children are so innocent when they're bombarded with all these things in our reality today. So that's very, very cool that, you did that and worked through that. Do you remember the day that you were like, okay, I can't do this to myself anymore? Like, do you remember?
So yes, I have lower back issues as well. I have I ended up having an MRI and a pre-herniated disc, but
Oh, damn.
they've hurt me for a long time. But my weight got so bad that one day I ended up, like, I couldn't move. I had to go to the emergency room, and they put me in the wheelchair. And I'm like, I'm too young for this. Like, I've not taken care of myself. I have gotten myself to this point. Yeah,
Right.
my back hurts. Even when I was skinnier, my back still hurt, but it was something. But I put on, what, 65 pounds of weight of more pressure on my back, and I
Right.
just had this realization that this is not life. This is not where I need to be. This is not. I'm not taking care of myself. I have, too much going on. Got a
Yeah.
baby girl on the way, and just, like, I need to be the best version of myself,
Yeah.
for me first of all, and then for my family, my wife, my kids. And I said, all right, time to go.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long ago did this happen?
uh 3 months ago.
3 months ago? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's amazing though, So where are you at now? Like, and how much, has it taken to, like, put that mind over matter and just really be consistent? Like, what have you done to be consistent now, to be the best dad, to be the best husband, to get back in shape? What were you doing?
A lot of it just comes back to mindset and
Yeah.
discipline, and because that little voice is always there in your head telling you, oh, you could just sleep a little bit longer,
Yeah.
or that water's too cold, you don't need to get in it, because I do cold plunges and stuff
Oh,
too.
good for
And it's,
you.
yeah, and it's just, you have to learn to listen to that little voice, and recognize it before it just goes down the rabbit hole. And
Mhm.
like, so I work out, I eat right, I do cold plunges, I meditate, I'll journal as well, just kind of get some of them thoughts that are racing around your head, put them on
Mhm.
paper, and give them somewhere to live other than in your head.
Yeah. You guys better write that down. These are all like, but they're amazing things, I mean, I look back on just, over a year ago, I didn't do any of I mean, I've always meditated and prayed and everything like that, but, just like with reading and meditation and prayer all in the beginning, like adding value to, like, social media, working out,
Yeah.
like really writing down everything that I'm eating and, preparing my day for success, like watch. I just actually just rinse my face with cold water most of the days because I don't have, a cold plunge. I know Daniel's working on getting one for himself, and I'm like, okay, someday I'll do that. Like, I hate being
I
cold, but
mean,
oh,
mine's a budget cold plunge, but it gets the job done.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome though. That's awesome. Yeah, Daniel's looking at like this guy made this like a freezer into a cold plunge where it's set up for
Yep.
someone to get in. So I think that's pretty cool because I mean, I know that that is such a mental thing. We had that challenge in the den last June, I believe, June or July. And I was like, God damn it, Sean, because like I hate with a passion being cold. Like I have the same thing that he does where um, my hands turn white,
Raynaud's.
Raynaud's just in like certain
Yeah.
situations and everything like that. I've never been diagnosed, but when he started talking about that, I was like, dude, that happens to me all the time. Even if it's warm, my hands will go white, my feet,
Yeah.
And so I did it, I only got like 2 minutes, but like I hated it. Like I just hated it. And I think, we got to do things that we hate. And
Yeah.
you know, my goal is to do that someday when I have the space and, have the right equipment and stuff like that. I just don't have that right now. But I can see the mental toughness that you get from that,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think that's really cool. So you just kind of did like self-healing with your workouts or eating right. Like you didn't go to therapy or anything like that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, but I've started putting myself out there a lot more, like on social media, and just
Yeah.
a lot of long form, a few videos, just stuff that's going on in my life. And I've had a lot of people that I haven't talked to in years, people I was in the military with, reach out to me like, man, I really loved what you said. Like, I'm going through the same thing, and just
Right.
trying to everything that I've learned, like I try to put it out there because I know there's somebody else that could
Right.
learn from it, that can benefit from it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why we're here. It's just there's so many people that need help, especially in today's world with any type of trauma or any type of
Yeah.
like even overstimulation that causes traumatic stress. And it's so in your face now. And, yeah, there's a lot of people, kind of starting podcasts and coaching groups. And I'm like, yeah, let's go, like let's build the community because everyone has something to share that's unique to
Oh
them.
yeah.
And, I remember when I read your post about your brother in the den, and I was like, damn, that is so because it's even more amazing when men really are vulnerable because in today's world, masculinity is just, getting played and
Yeah.
shamed, everything like that. So for men to be vulnerable, I'm always like, that is such a beautiful thing. And I
Yeah.
feel like I want those stories to be shared because men, I feel like, are struggling so much more than any any time of our lives.
Oh,
Um,
it's especially in my upbringing, you're told to just sit
right,
down and shut up. Like you don't talk about what's going on in your mind. You don't, something
right,
upsets you, you don't talk about it. You just sit down and shut up. And then it's hard to grow out of something like that, when you get older, because you just, told to be quiet. Nobody wants to hear it.
right,
You're a man,
right,
it's you don't have to lose your masculinity just because you're vulnerable. And that's something that I've
abs-
learned. I mean, hell, I'm sitting here talking to you about everything that I've gone through, and a year ago, 2 years ago, that's not something that I would do. It's something that I'd keep locked into my head, and just
mhm,
suffer through it.
mhm. Isn't that crazy to look back? Like, you're like, damn, like I've come a really far way, you know? And so I'm sure, so obviously, like your wife now, currently, you went through this with losing your brother and going, being overweight and not taking care of yourself to coming back.
Yeah.
How was your relationship then and compared to now?
It's 1,000 times better.
Yeah.
just me being able to, show my gratitude and help out any way I can and just be there, you know, for support.
Yeah.
Because before I couldn't support myself mentally. I mean, I still worked, I still, we got bills paid, but I couldn't support myself mentally. Therefore, it's hard to support somebody else when you can't even support yourself.
Right. Right. And did you hide things from her like when you guys first got together? Were you embarrassed of your past, like growing up in a tragic, home and stuff? Or were you just an open book then and then you shut down again because of your brother?
It wasn't. I wouldn't say open book, but it's there. There was some stuff that I would talk about,
Yeah.
and it's funny because it was a couple months ago that she and I were just sitting there talking, and she's talking about like she would mention her first grade teacher's name and just remember all these things from when she was a kid, and I'm like, I don't remember that much stuff
Yeah.
from when I was a kid, like. And I started thinking about it more and more, and like the things that I do remember are traumatic experiences, and I don't
Yeah.
know if that's your brain trying to shut down everything that happened back then. It's I'm not a psychologist. I don't know how you compartmentalize up here. I know, but it's weird, like, because you talk to people that remember stuff when they were a kid versus somebody who went through the trauma and stuff similar to
Mhm.
mine. It's like they don't remember a lot. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot of stuff's just blocked out.
Yeah. It actually is like, I'm not a professional psychologist either. I'm just very, very passionate on,
Yeah,
sharing stories, teaching people how to love themselves and like helping the world. Like, why not, Um, and I know that like our brain learns to, put the traumatic stressful times like to be hidden where we don't remember. I mean, I've seen it in my own mom, for example, with everything that she went through as a child or things like in the past couple of years, she doesn't remember. Or
yeah,
she chooses not to remember. And I don't really know where that is for her. But at the same time, like I still to this day, like hope that she can work out those issues because it has
yeah,
still like come into her life in today. But that's why I've always like, okay, I got to work on my shit. But there are times where even in my childhood, and I had a really great childhood, but there are memories that like I really didn't like, and like, how did I remember those things?
yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I asked my uncle about this memory that I had, and he was like, "Yep, yep, that went on a lot, and it continued." And I'm not going to go into that, but it was just kind of like eye opening that the more information that you dive into yourself opens up new things about yourself or other people.
Hmm.
And, you choose to, let those affect you or not, but I think what's really great about you being able to be vulnerable with your wife, like a lot of times in relationships, we don't want to talk about the past. We're embarrassed. We're like, we're going to start all over again. I get to start all over in a new
Yeah,
relationship. And there's a lot of times when you are in dating in new relationships and these people can be like super narcissistic and you don't know it because they're hiding everything in the dark, right? And so,
hmm,
yeah. Yeah. So, and that's what I was used to dating before Daniel. And that's why I was like, well, shit, man, I need to invest in myself more so I can be more vulnerable with myself and with my next partner because being in a relationship, it's all about like learning about each other, not just loving each other, but learning about each other every single day. And if we can't be vulnerable with
yeah,
our partner, like what are we doing?
yeah. And luckily, I had worked with my wife now a couple years. We worked together, and it wasn't like, I mean, it was what, 2 3 years before it ever became anything. But we were just friends at work. Like
Yeah.
we felt comfortable around each other. So it's when you start dating someone that you don't know, everybody puts on that face, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't want to spill all your problems on the first date because then you think you might scare that person off or something like
Right.
that. And luckily, I didn't really have that with my wife now. Like it's if something comes up, I mean, it's something we could talk about. Like I'll share it.
That's great. That's great. And does she reciprocate and share with you?
Hmm.
Yeah.
She does.
It makes the relationship so strong, like Daniel and I, like we went on like an hour walk yesterday, and just us two. And, when you get out active, just walking, like, and having that connection and conversation and, just talking about things that, maybe we've talked about before, but it's just, talking about them again and rehashing them and, having that connective place, that safe space with your partner is just,
Hmm.
it's amazing. Like I've never had that with anybody, and it just
I
helps,
hadn't either.
right? Like, it really makes you feel at peace because we're all here trying to have freedom, financial freedom, peace, love, like, and just success. And to have that with your partner is even better, and then you get to show that because guess who's watching is your kids.
Hmm.
How old is your son now?
So
Oh, you
I
have two
have
boys.
three.
Oh, three boys.
I, two are biological.
Okay.
My oldest son, he's 17, but
Oh my God.
that's yeah,
Wow.
my ex-wife she got pregnant in high school, and then her high school sweetheart, once Kyler is his name, once he was born, he up and left. Never wanted nothing to do with him, never met him. And I
Wow.
came into his life when he was 3. So I mean,
Wow.
that's his name tattooed on my arm here. And
Oh.
then he texted me yesterday for Father's Day, and he said this this is my son. He goes, I know I didn't come from your balls, Dad, but you're my dad. Happy Father's Day. I'm like, that's my child.
I actually got that mug for my uncle last year because my uncle and I are real tight. And like my dad and him, they have been best friends since they were 7. And like I look at my uncle like that, like as like, he's my uncle, he's one of my best friends, but like, he
Yeah.
is like a father figure, someone that's, my blood, that is older than me, that like I can really talk to and learn from. Like he has encouraged me
Yeah.
so much to do so many things. And yeah, I remember seeing that somewhere and I was like, oh my God, that is hilarious. My uncle's like one of the funniest dudes I know. I'm like, I have to get this from him, so I hope he drank out of it yesterday. I forgot to ask him. But it's like,
Yeah. And then Kyler's my go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just laughing.
My my next, he will be 13 in August.
Okay.
And then I have a 6-year old.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, with your oldest, the 17-year-old, I think what's amazing about that is that you were another person that could love him. And that's
Oh
how I
yeah.
feel about like Daniel's girls. Obviously that is a work in progress because we've hung out maybe like 3 times since we've been dating and
Hmm.
we're being very, fragile because they're 13, 11, and 7. But they're amazing. And I just look at it like it's just an extra person to love them and be a light for
Yeah.
them, because like those ages, like, and they're all girls, dude, like they're like all over the place, but I love it, like I love it. um so do you have like your 13 and 7-year-old like 50% of the time? Like how does that work for you guys?
No, we moved so I'm from Texas, but we moved to Alabama to be closer to my wife's family and
Oh, that's
to
great.
give my daughter a a better upbringing than we could, because in Texas there's no support system for us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something, I had to sit down, and my 6-year old, he doesn't understand, but
Yeah.
my older two, I sat down and talked to them, and that's like I fly back and like to get them as much as I can. They were
Wow.
here for the summer, but they're actually on a vacation with their mother right now, and then they'll be coming back.
Oh,
And then
good.
anytime there's a break or a long weekend, I get out there. And I told my son, I was like, I can't, like, y'all have that support system with my ex-wife side of the family there,
Oh, good.
because it's hard having kids, like if it's just the husband and the mother. It just there by themselves. You
Yeah.
know, at the family experience I wanted my daughter to grow up in is out here. You know, my
Yeah.
wife has a very loving family and great
Oh,
parents and aunts and uncles. I mean, it's a blessing to be able to raise her out here versus back in Texas.
yeah. Yeah. And you gotta do what you gotta do, and you obviously like are doing whatever you can to be in your boy's life. And I think it's cool that you can have him for a whole summer and she can still take him on
Yeah.
vacation. Like that's amazing. And because I know, like, I mean, I watched Daniel, with his three girls. Like, it's really, really hard because of what they understand and what they don't understand. And
Yes.
um, when they don't understand, it just breaks your heart, like
Uh,
it's so
and
hard.
that's the way it was with my 12-year-old when we first initially had the conversation.
Yeah.
He didn't understand. And
Yeah.
then I think there are some family members in my ex's family that, put thoughts into my kids' heads, but I mean, I talked to him like, they came back and he's at that point like where he's maturing more and more, and it's nice to see him, growing up because my oldest son, he grew up young. Like
Yeah.
he's an
Yeah.
old soul. Like I never gave him a bedtime. He'd go to bed at 8:30, get up on his own for school. Like it's just weird. He was the easiest.
Wow.
But then my 12-year-old was never that way. And we were able to sit down and have a conversation, where he asked me questions and then, I kind of broke
Oh,
things down for him, and it was a really good conversation. So it's
that's
nice to see
amazing.
him. Yeah.
That's
He
amazing.
actually, I posted a story about him in the den. I don't know if you saw it or not, but uh, two calls ago, which two weekly calls ago, when Sean was sitting in his gym,
Oh, yeah.
my son sat there and watched it with me. And after we got done, he said, "Are you doing your cold plunge in the morning?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I want to do it." I said, "Okay."
That's
And
awesome.
as that the next morning, yeah, and the next morning, as I'm sitting in the ice water, and he's like, "Well,
Oh, I did
how
read that.
long do you go?" Yeah, he's like, "How long do you go?" I was like, "Well, I started out at 5 minutes and then worked my way up." He said, "Oh, okay." And then he jumps in there and he sits down, and the first 30 seconds is the roughest. Once you get past that 30 seconds, your brain kind of it's got that fight or flight mode going on, and it's trying to
Yep.
get you to get the hell out of there. But once you get past it, you do a lot better. And he's sitting there, and I was watching my time, and I said, "All right." I said, "Your time's up. That's 5 minutes." He looks at me and turns his head. He goes, "You sure?" I was like, "Okay, then you keep on going." I was like, "I like it." He's
Wow.
like, "Well, that guy we listened to yesterday was talking about how people are lazy and they don't ever push themselves and all this." And I was like, "Get after it."
That is so freaking cool. Like that is so
Yeah.
cool. I did read that post. I thought that was such a great post. And I love that you shared that. I do remember that. And I think it's great that, some calls you can share with your kids, like Daniel,
Yeah.
he was a shut off dad for like a really long time when he struggled with PTSD. Like he would just get drunk or his kids knew not to talk to him because he was going to get mad at the smallest things. And now, like, to see him be a dad today, like, I didn't know that part. I mean, I didn't know him at that time, but
Yeah.
see how he is a dad now. It's so beautiful. Like, he teaches his kids to be free thinkers and learn how to protect themselves. And, that they don't have to go to college. They could be passionate about something and just do what they want and love themselves. And he has deep conversations with them. And, like, I bet, like, when he gets his cold plunge, I'm sure his kids are going to watch him do that too, just like your son. Like he's watching you listen to Sean. He's watching you go into the cold plunge and be like, I'm going to do that too. And like
Hmm.
you are building your kids for success by just having them watch what you're doing. Like that is so cool. That's incredible. That's so
It's
cool.
completely different to,
Right.
tell your kid to do something and have them go do it, or, try to talk them into it. But when he
Yeah.
asked me to get in there and then he told me he was staying in longer, that's like a proud dad moment because that's
Yeah.
initiative he's taken upon himself.
Right.
And he got it, like you said, from watching Sean and then watching me. And it's like, it was a very proud moment for me.
That's so awesome. That's great. That's so great. And what do you like now that you are here today? You said you're in sales, right?
Hmm.
What do you do in your job now?
So I work. We sell like fiber internet and
Okay.
telecom equipment to government entities and
Okay.
schools, and I work. My territory is in Mississippi, but we work with schools because there's discounts that are available from the government to help
Right.
public schools pay for all that equipment and everything.
Right.
So we're kind of the middleman between it.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you like working for them, or like what's your goal in the end for you to have freedom and being able to do whatever you want?
So my goal is to help other people get
Yeah.
out there and help other people that have been in the situations that I've been in
Mm-hmm.
and help them realize that there's more to life than, laying in bed all day or drinking
Yeah.
yourself to sleep or,
Right.
addiction runs prevalent. And I've
Yeah.
I've never been addicted to drug. I've never I mean, but I've seen it so much. Like I grew up in it and family members
Yeah.
and then being a cop, like you just see the worst of everybody and you see the
Right.
hole that it leads people down. Like I I want to help people, enjoy life
Mm-hmm.
and know their meaning for life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. I love that. We need more of that. I think, like you said, like you don't have to grow up in it not to not see it, because it's
Yeah.
so in your face now. But growing up with it is so different. And I love that you're going to take that and own it and serve it and teach other people that they don't have to have that, you know, what they've learned in the past still hold on to them in the
Yeah.
future, because that's not them, that's somebody else putting their life onto you, and that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that it's your life. Like you're the one who gets to be able to choose to let go of the past to go into the future. Is your do you talk to your parents still? Are they still alive? Like,
So, I do talk to them. You mentioned narcissists earlier, and those are probably the two biggest ones that I know. They
mhm,
separated when I was 7,
okay.
and they did not talk to each other until my brother died.
Wow.
So they separated in 2000 or no, 1995 and did not talk to each other until 2019 when my brother died. And they were civil, they had conversations with each other. And my mom said she's forgiven him for everything he's been through. My dad was still on drugs when
Mm,
my brother died. My dad
mm,
got clean because my brother died.
he
Now, I mean, there's
did?
still
Wow.
issues. Yeah, it made a change in his life, but one of the biggest issues is my parents drowned themselves in the sorrow of
Mm,
losing a child. And it's like my wife even told my mother one day, she's like, "Listen, you have a child that's still alive,
mhm,
but all y'all do is, you focus on losing, your son, but you still have a son that's alive. You
mhm.
have grandchildren that are alive." And my mother, it's something my mother's working on. I don't think my dad's got himself to the point where he can work on it yet.
Yeah, but at least he's clean, you know? I mean,
Yes, he is
it's a
clean,
step
and I
forward.
am truly grateful for that.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing what things do, and then it's also amazing, like, when people play, like, the victim, you know what I mean? It's like, when people play the victim, you constantly are searching for someone to feel sorry for you.
Yeah,
When when it that takes over your life, then like you're just feeling sorry for yourself. It's not about what happened. It's, not wanting to forgive what happened, forgive yourself for these feelings
yeah,
and learning how to move on or learning to take a step and, but the only thing that we can do as children or, whatever that we are to that person is just pray for them and hope
Yeah.
that they find that peace. And I know that you mentioned like praying to God and everything like that. Like, what has God done in your life, and how has he played a role in your life to, learning all these things about yourself?
So I learned a lot. I don't go to church now, even though I should. My
Yeah.
wife, since we just moved, we've been talking about going to church, but I started going to church when I was in high school. So that's
Hmm.
some of the, when I accepted God into my life, and I saw some positivity around that. And I've
Hmm.
always, I'd pray to God, I talk to God. Am I the bit like a textbook Christian? No, I'm not. But I do my part to get out there and try to make people's lives better
Yeah.
the best that I can.
Yeah. I feel that. Like I feel like in a lot of things that I do, I'm just like, I want God to speak through me. And, I am very outside of the box too. Like I don't go to church, and I did find there is a church out here that's pretty cool because they, have, God outside of the box, not like some boxed religion as most of them
Yeah.
are. But, and I really, I couldn't say his name for, being brought up in such a tight Christian family, and, being judged like from my mom and from the church that I used to go at. And, I was just like really spiritual until last year when I was at Lions Den Live, watching all these guest speakers, all of them said that they couldn't do it if they did not believe in God and had God, as their back. And I was like, what am I doing? I have to say his name. I have to like do this. And ever since then, like I hear him. It's like I hear him wanting me to do this, or I pray and I see things happening that, I'm actually asking. And, it's amazing the strength that you do feel. You just feel stronger. You feel stronger. You
Yeah.
feel like you're being pulled into these things that you're supposed to be at. And that, last year it was so life changing. I hope you're going to Lions Den Live.
I don't know.
It's the last one, so I would encourage you to do it. It is worth everything. It's worth everything, like I had no idea what to expect last year, and it literally changed my life. Like literally, that's why I started this podcast. That's why I've done everything that I've done now because of that event.
Yeah.
So it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And you can bring your 17-year-old. I mean, I think it's like 15 and over if you wanted to bring, your kids.
Okay.
Um, and like Daniel, he wants to bring one of his girls, but she's 13. I think she would be a little young for that, but because it's just all say, but
Yeah.
it's incredible. And so and I find that like, through all these things, it's just, anything that is going to add value to your life, you do it. You
Yeah.
just do it. You just do it. And the people like, what I would tell you if you want to, start on this journey of like helping people, like again, you should talk to Daniel. I think you are talking to him today actually, but
Yeah.
and
I'm calling him after we get off
yeah, that's
this
so
here.
amazing. Because I was like, oh man, you need to have Michael on your podcast too. I think you guys would really, really collaborate really well together. But that's the thing. It's like, when you go to these big events, this is your family. Michael, you will just like everybody you meet, it's like they want to help you. It's just, it's not just
Yeah.
about the event, it's about that connection of everybody. It's so cool. I mean, it's really, really cool. So and I just, I say that out loud here on this podcast because I want you all to know, as the audience, is like anything that's going to add value to your life, just do it, because we don't do things because we're afraid, right? You
Yeah.
know? So, so what are you going to do? Like, are you just starting to put yourself out there with social media? Like, what does it look like for you on how you are going to help people?
I don't have a whole blueprint yet, but like I said, I
That's
am
okay.
starting to put myself out there more. And
Yeah.
then I get like I'm in some groups on Facebook too that are, like minded, kind of the subject matter that I'm talking about. And I'll post the stuff in there and people ask, for advice, people offer advice. It's just getting yourself out there and then people reaching out to you and you helping them any way you can. Um, I've talked to a few people in the den about, setting something like that up for, for the future to that be, my livelihood, how me being out there, being able to help people out, take care of people and not have to worry about, well, let me go, I still got to go to my 9 to 5 or whatever else. It's just,
Mm,
that's what I can focus solely on.
yeah. 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 Absolutely. I mean, that's the whole goal. Like, with myself too, like I love doing hair, I'm hairdresser, but eventually I don't want to just do hair. Like I want to be able to just put everything into, helping people. And that's what, my goal with Daniel is too. And so it's like, surrounding yourself with the people that can help you do it. Like it's just
Oh
amazing.
yeah.
It's amazing. So we're at the end of our call pretty much. We can go on for days, I'm sure. But, I always like to I could talk to anybody forever, but I like to try to do it as for an hour so we don't lose, our audience. And this has been very powerful. Like this has been such a powerful, message that you have shared. And what would you say to someone that is going through the darkness that you did? Like, what are the 3 top things that you would tell them right now to start today and get better?
It starts with mindset, whether that's, getting yourself out the door to go to work, whatever else. You have to learn how to master the mindset and get that first step in. Once the first step started, you have momentum. And then it's the second step's easier once you're moving. And the second that I could offer somebody is to move. Get out, whether it's a walk, whether you like going to the gym and picking up and putting down heavy shit like I do. I mean, get your body moving, get the blood flowing, get the endorphins pumping once you get that exercise going, and then eat right. Take care of yourself because I mean those big 3 right there, and the last 2 are going to support the first one.
Right.
So take care of those 3 aspects right there to get yourself moving and get yourself up out of that hole and see the light that's outside when the sun comes up.
Yeah. That's great. That's so beautiful. And what you obviously with working out and eating right, let's give a little detail on how we change our mindset. What are a couple things that you did to change your mindset to get up and do those things?
Write down what you want in life.
Mhm.
Spill it out. Like I said, bust out the journal, put down where you want to go. Like I said, get it out of your head, put it on paper, make it something that you could actually see. Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? You got to put those things down and then start answering those questions
Yeah.
in detail.
Yeah.
And then because none of those things are going to happen if you're stuck in that darkness that is depression. I mean, you're just going to sit there. But if there's things you want to do in life, put them on paper in as much detail as you can, and then go make it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's really great advice, and even, and it's, you know, obviously you guys, it's okay to be in the darkness. Like we learn the most when
Yes.
we're in the dark because we are trying to find that light. But what Michael is saying, when you write it down, write everything in detail and then just write it out backwards from how you're going to get there from the beginning to the end. It's amazing what our brains can when they see our brains see it on paper. We're like, oh, if I want to do this, I have to do this. If I want to do that, then I got to do this, and just see the path to where you want to go. And that
And
though it seems so simple.
that's what I was about to say. When it sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things
Yeah,
to do.
yeah.
And I understand that. And like when I put it out there and it sounds like, oh, that just makes it sound easy. No, it's not easy.
Right.
It's something hard. And you're still gonna have days that, that kick you in the ass. Like you wake up and you don't feel like $1 million and you just, oh, let me sleep in. It's those moments that when you force yourself to get out of bed, force yourself to take action on whatever you're doing, that you build that discipline. And that discipline's what's gonna help carry you through when the motivation's gone.
Right. Ooh, that was a gold nugget right there, Mike. That's so good. That's so good. Yeah, discipline is huge, man. Like, because you can have your day set up for success, like with journaling and writing everything's down, but it's the discipline that's what it's going to take you there, because it's every single day. Like, most days I wake up and I'm like, fuck, I gotta work out. Like, ugh,
Mm-hmm.
but then I do it and I'm like, okay, cool. And it might not feel like the best workout. It might not feel like, but maybe tomorrow is going to be better. You know what I mean? And
But you still did it.
but you still do it. And that's with life. That's what the journey is to freedom, is like, it's every single day, that discipline that you put with yourself, and the consistency of, like, it might be really, really small steps every single day, but 30 days later, you're going to look back and be like, okay, like, I did better right there and right here and right here. What else can I do? And that's why it's so important to write our goals down every 90 days and accomplish them, and then accomplish something new in the next 90 days to get even further of where we want to go. And so I think that is wonderful, wonderful advice. I think, this advice you can share with your children, you can share with your loved ones, not just yourself, because as simple as it is to write it down, the actions are really hard and discipline is really hard. But if it wasn't hard, we wouldn't learn shit. Let's be honest.
No.
We won't learn anything.
Now, I will add one to that, and that's a great being grateful. Learn gratitude.
Yeah.
Write down what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
Tell people, like Sean advises, like let people know what you're grateful for. If you're grateful for something they did or them, let them know. And
Absolutely.
there's a podcast that I listened to, and the guy gave some advice, and he was talking to this person. He said, if I offered you $5 million, how would you feel? And the guy's like, oh, that'd be amazing. I mean, I would love that. I could do this, that, and the other. He said, now what if I told you I'd give you $5 million, but you don't get to wake up tomorrow? And the
Mm,
guy's like, well, no. He's like, would you choose the $5 million or to wake up tomorrow? He said, I'd choose to wake up tomorrow.
mm,
He
mm.
said, so waking up tomorrow is worth more to you than $5 million is. So every morning you wake up, be thankful. That's how, I mean,
Yeah,
if you truly value that more than $5 million, you wake up, that's another thing to be grateful for.
absolutely. And that's a great way to think about it, right? I mean, every day when I pray, I'm like, I'm so thankful to be breathing. Like, I'm thankful for this new
Hmm.
day. And just like, man, now I just stress out, like, I feel like I'm going to run out of time of, like, doing everything I can to help people, and just, have financial freedom so I can donate so much to charities, and, do so much with
Yep.
that. And, but I feel like being grateful, consistent, and disciplined, we can get there. We can get there. So that is really, really cool. So again, you guys, write anything down that struck you today. There's a lot of gold nuggets in this conversation. And if you guys have questions, reach out to him. He's on IG, he's on social platforms where you can ask him questions like, what exactly did you do for this? Or maybe you're going through something that is striking you different in the Navy, with your family, with drugs, with abuse, I mean, he has a lot of experience, so reach out to him. Don't be a stranger, and let's connect, you guys. So thank you, Michael, for coming on and sharing your story. Like, this is so powerful, and you're so brave, and I can't wait to see what happens for you in the future. I'm very excited for you.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and then we can't wait to see these pictures of your baby girl soon. So
Oh, as soon as they'll be up, as soon as I can post them, I will be.
yeah, absolutely. So keep inspiring others, Michael, and your children, everybody around you. And thank you so much for coming on.
You're very welcome. Keep up the hard work.
Oh, thank you so much. Bye, guys.